on the list, make 3 long columns. First one is you, like me, myself. Second one is partner, someone you remember struggling with. And the third one is parents. And if it happened to your mom, dad, or both, make a mark of that as well.
Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Authentic Talks. I am excited about today's guest, you guys. She is a certified global life and love coach. She's also a certified clinical trauma and addictions professional, as well as a mindful coach. She's the #1 best-selling author and the podcast host of Lessons in Life and Love, an educational speaker and a licensed mental health counselor for over 20 years, living in Palm Beach County, Florida. She was also a life and dating coach for the Docu-Series Radical Dating, Finding Lasting Love Over 40. You guys, let's just go ahead and get this show on the road and introduce this week's guest. Be sure to grab your pen, you guys, because we're talking all about trauma, and she's leaving some gems, you guys. She's dropping those tips. Please welcome Riana Milne to Authentic Talks. Authentic Talks is all about authentic conversations. This show is all about growth, love, respect, success, mind, body, and spirit. If you're looking to grow and become your authentic self, then this is the podcast for you. And I am your host, Shantae. Welcome to the show. Please welcome Riana Milne to the show. Hi, Riana.
Hi, Shantae. How are you?
I am good. I'm excited to have you here because we're going to talk all about trauma. Before we get started, can I have you introduce yourself to the audience?
I'm Riana Milne from Palm Beach County, Florida, gorgeous Florida. For over 20 years, I've been a psychotherapist in private practice, and I specialize in love trauma recovery. So people that have been hurt emotionally by narcissists, sociopaths, and too many people out there have been experiencing this. But I also do life transition programs for kids 16 to 30 who are kind of just stuck in transition from either high school to college or coming out of college and can't find work and kind of end up in their parents' house again and just failure to launch. So I do a lot of that, but primarily I work with successful women in business but struggle in love and can't figure it out what to do. I've been working in trauma within schools, hospital settings, in my private practice, and went to the coaching model in 2009 because it gives you a much higher level of service. Like my VIP clients, they can text me, they can email me, and the recovery and transformation is incredible because they have the support when the incident is happening or when the feelings are being triggered. So I love what I do. I work globally, virtually, and you can find me at rianamilne.com.
Wow. Well, welcome to Authentic Talks. Well, so tell us a little bit more about your work as a life, love, and relationship coach and how you came into becoming a life coach.
Sure. Well, I did the traditional model, graduated with a triple master's in applied clinical and counseling psychology, year 2000. Opened up my practice, and it was when something personal happened to me with someone that I married. He had an entire secret life, and I didn't see it. And we were introduced by his school superintendent. So he did something he should not have done at his school. So it was a big community scandal, and the superintendent was upset, saying, "I cursed the day that I introduced this man to you. You're such a good woman." And I said, "Well, we both didn't know. Nobody knew." He runs out of town and leaves me to clean up the mess. So and his last words to me were, "I don't know why I sabotage everything I love." And I said, "I don't know either, but I'm going to find out." And that began my journey into deep research because the words childhood trauma and all the repercussions was not out anywhere in psychology world. I didn't learn it in my master's program. It was not taught to me. It wasn't until I experienced love trauma, and 7 psychotherapist friends of mine could not help me. It's not diagnosed in the DSM-4 under a form of PTSD, and it should be. So it was a whole new elephant that I was facing, and you can't change what you don't understand or what you don't know. So that started my journey, and it led to a couple of my books. I've written 7 of them, but Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose and Success. And the sister book is Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve. Got up to 400 pages, and it's like, okay, I got to stop. But then I had more research. So that goes in, that went into my custom workbooks for my clients, which is 150 pages.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a very deep dive into psychology, philosophy, spirituality for singles and couples. And I work with straight and LGBTQ clients as well.
Wow, that's really awesome. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of my females just recently got married. My guy, Scott, from the Radical Dating, Finding Lasting Love Over 40, where I was his coach. There was 5 contestants and 5 coaches. And I was assigned to Scott because he had both childhood and partner trauma. And I was the only trauma specialist there. And when they were being interviewed, he's there, I hate dating. What I hate about dating is dating itself. And I'm thinking, wow, whoever gets him has their hands full. So they're like, Riana, you're going to take Scott because there's no one else that can work with trauma like he's been through. I said, fine, I'll take Scott. So he was a gay male. And he was the first one to get out to date, first with an exclusive partner. And now he's happily married.
Wow.
So the bottom line is, childhood trauma has no prejudice. It occurs to 90% of adults are still walking around with unhealed, unconscious childhood patterns, which lead to problems in relationships, life, or business.
Wow. And well, thank goodness that there's coaches like you out there.
Thanks.
I absolutely love it. So you specialize in those who have experienced childhood trauma. How does that hold one back from having a life and love relationship they dream of?
Well, the problem is if you don't fix the emotional triggers, you're going to be continually triggered. So let's give an example of when all this COVID happened. There's 2 ways people responded. Those with high anxiety, high fear, eating a lot, drinking more alcohol, getting depressed, right? These are people that are being triggered. Me and my clients are like, okay, great. I think I have more time. I'm going to have weekends in. What projects have been on hold that I can get done right now? So we're proactive. We look at what can we do. It's part of the mindset for success, what I do teach. Because it's really important to feel, it's an empowered feeling that no matter what happens on the outside of our world, we are controlled by our own thoughts and our own mind. And that happens in life and, like I said, in love relationships as well. If you don't get it healed also, what happens a lot is somebody that has a toxic partner will repeat that over and over and over again. We call that same person, different face, or repetitive relationship syndrome. And it's a real thing, and people get so frustrated by the 3rd time around. That's usually when I hear from them, and unfortunately they're like exhausted and burnt out. Many have been taken advantage of financially. So, you're stuck in this pattern that emerged within you during childhood due to the traumas that you might have experienced.
Wow, this is really interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating work.
It really is. So there's a total of 10 traumas. You had mentioned that earlier before we had hit record. Can you describe the 10 traumas that people experience during childhood that can impact them as adults in their love relationships and in their life?
Sure. So before I get started, I want to suggest people get a paper and pen so they can write them down. But also, there's more than 10. First of all, I call these my top 10, and I came up with the childhood trauma checklist. This is my checklist of the top 10. And these are what I saw over and over in my experiences working in all those settings I described. I worked with students of trauma who felt different, were bullied, ADHD, oppositional defiant kids in the schools, in the hospital settings, kids that were depressed, runaway, suicidal, cutting, in drug and alcohol rehab centers. There were teens there, and then women from the prison system. So I had so much work with people of trauma of all different ages that I said, what are the top that I keep seeing over and over and over again, resulting to their high anxiety or bouts of depression or suicidal thoughts. So that was where I pulled the list together. And when you're a child, you have to keep in mind you're young and you're innocent. You're just a product of your environment. So at this point, we're not looking to blame your mom and dad, or we're not looking to make you feel ashamed or guilty that these happened to you. Okay, so we're trying to just look at it as factual. And you'll say, well, I didn't have any traumas, because that's what everybody says at first. And then they hear the list and they're like, well, wait a minute, I have 4 or 5 of those. Because we don't see them as trauma until we really see the repercussions it's playing in our life unconsciously. So, and I'll go into that after the list. On the list, make 3 long columns. First one is you, like me, myself. Second one is partner, someone you remember struggling with. And the third one is parents. And if it happened to your mom, dad, or both, make a mark of that as well. Because the research shows childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations, if not more. So if you had it, definitely mom and dad had it, or one or the other, or both. Okay. So the first one is if your parents had any addiction. So that's drugs, alcohol, sex, meaning you knew they were a cheater, porn, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism, and I've added a new one, which is social media addiction, or just being on the machines all the time.
I have heard of that.
Yeah, it's real. Okay, so that's addiction to anything. Second is verbal abuse or verbal yelling. So that could have happened. You witnessed it between mom and dad, or they yelled at you. Or if they were mad at you, they were passive aggressive, so they'd shut down and not talk to you for hours or days at a time in a way to punish you. They also could have given you verbal put downs like, you look fat in that, why don't you change your clothes? Or I'm not investing in college for you, you'd waste my money. You know, things like that, where they don't even see that they're putting you down, but they are. And those verbal slights really are big. Never hearing compliments and not hearing the words, I love you. So verbal ends up being a very big one that hits adults. So that's that one. Third is emotional abuse or neglect. And the next one is sexual abuse, rape or molestation, or physical abuse. And those things could have happened inside or outside of the home. So let's say you had a perfect childhood, but every day you walked to school, you got beat up by the bully. Okay, so that could have happened in or outside of the home. Okay, the next one is abandonment. And there's 2 types, fault and no fault abandonment. So no fault is if a parent happened to die early. If your parent had to go off for several years or a long time to serve at war, or your parent was away from home a lot of the time because that's how they worked and supported the family. And that one was one of mine. My dad was like James Bond. We didn't know it, but he was FBI and CIA. We didn't know it until the end, towards the end of his life, when he was dying of cancer, and we got letters from Ronald Reagan and William Casey, head of the FBI at the time, honoring my father for his many years of service. And I'm like, well, that's where Dad was. Yeah, so we didn't really know. And my mother didn't know. And I remember asking, when's Daddy coming home? She goes, well, I don't know where he is. So that was like, as a kid, like, is he okay? You know, where is he?
Did she know? Did your mom know?
She did not know.
Wow.
You can't tell your family because then they could be in harm's way.
Oh.
Yeah. So none of us really knew, but it was no fault. That's how he supported us. Right. Okay. And then the other one is fault abandonment. And this is if you're never in the child's life. If you were in the child's life and then you end up leaving, let's say after a divorce or a breakup, if you're even in the home, but you barely pay attention to the child, or they have custody time and you're in front of the TV watching football and the kids in the room the whole time by themselves. That's a form of fault abandonment. There's no emotional connection. So
wow, that's sad.
Yeah, that's abandonment. Okay, the next one is if you were adopted, part of foster care, or had to go live in other people's homes because your parents couldn't take care of you. So even if it was grandparents, aunts, uncles, family, friends, that's that situation. Trauma number 7 is personal trauma, one of the most common along with verbal. And this is where you might have felt different. You might have been bullied, born with a medical condition like asthma, so you can be on the sports team, diagnosed at school at ADHD. Believe me, they were all my kids. They hated having to be pulled out to go to special classes. They felt different, they didn't feel like the cool kids. They felt something was wrong with them. So any kind of labels, you might have been an overweight child, skinny and gawky child. This could be about the LGBTQ coming out, right? They weren't accepted. Or racial situation where, I had one beautiful African-American girl in my office and her family life was like perfect. And I get to this one, she goes, "Oh my God, Riana, that's it." She goes, "I was the only Black girl in an all-white school. I never fit in. I tried everything to look like the other girls, to get along with them, to really please them." And so that was very traumatic for her. And that happened in childhood, but in the school atmosphere. Okay. All right, the next one, number 8, is sibling trauma. That could be your sibling was born with a medical condition, or they bullied you, or most commonly, they were the golden child, the favored ones. Could have been more handsome or beautiful, more athletic or smarter in school, just something that they got more of mom and dad's accolades. Okay, trauma number 9 actually has 2 of them. I brought one down from the later list because it was so important. And years ago, this wasn't very prevalent, but it's community trauma. Oh my gosh, everyone's going through community trauma right now with COVID, right? Everyone around the world. So when people say, "Well, I don't have any traumas," guess what? Y'all have trauma 9 right now. Okay. But this is also acts of Mother Nature: hurricanes, floods, fires, mudslides. It's also our mass shootings, and it is our school shootings. So anything that's impacting the community at large. Okay, look how common this has become in the past 20 years. When I was a little girl, it just really wasn't prevalent at all. And then the other one is family trauma. This could be a parent was incarcerated. You grew up with a lot of lack or feeling poverty or struggling for things. You lived in a dangerous neighborhood. Maybe your family was military. You had to move every 2 to 4 years. That put you in different schools. So there's a lot around family trauma, losing your home around the mortgage crisis in the U.S. Now, globally, people are losing their jobs and worried about money and income. So this whole thing going on right now is going to be, a big effect on these younger people as they become older. They might become germaphobes, or afraid to hug someone, so it's really a shame what's going on. Okay, then the last one is trauma number 10, and this is if your mom or dad had a mental health illness. The baby boomers like me, our parents didn't go to counseling, so you kind of have to guess. The 2 most difficult personality types for a little child to negotiate is borderline and bipolar personality disorder. So bipolar means manic depressive. So manic is usually like a spending spree, an eating binge, a gambling spree, something like that. And depression can show up as anger, checking out emotionally, or extreme fatigue. And the other one I think is really most difficult is borderline personality disorder. These are people with extreme moods. When they're good, they're great. When they're bad, they're horrid. And you never know what you're going to get. These people blow up at the littlest things that nobody else would get upset over. And very hard for a little child to live around. You'll find people that had dads like this. Usually, I don't know why it's more prevalent in males. They're people pleasing. They have high anxiety. They get very shook up if somebody's mad at them. So yeah, that has a big impact, the borderline.
Wow. I think I have probably more than half of these. Let me keep on moving.
Yeah, people are usually surprised when they hear the list.
It's like, wow, you did give us some examples, when you were talking earlier, but can you give us a few more examples of destructive patterns that may emerge in those relationships?
Yeah, this is the really important part. Okay, so if you have trauma number 7, which is personal, you don't feel good enough, and heard the words from your parents, never compliments, not "I love you" or "God, you look heavy," all these put downs. This usually brings a form of jealousy or perfectionism, because you just don't feel that you're good enough. So you either keep trying to be perfect, or you're jealous in a romance situation. You don't trust someone, you have low self-esteem, low confidence levels, you get jealous easy if somebody's talking to your partner. So that's that one. Impulsivity, risky choices, hurting your partner, not thinking before you're doing. That comes from a high level of traumas. When we're talking narcissism, that's usually 8 out of 10 of the traumas. And then I look at levels, severity levels of what you went through, which is 1 through 10, with 10 being most severe. So our sociopaths are like usually at least 9, 8 or 9 traumas. And the psychopath is a sociopath and narcissist who kills. The sociopath is someone that uses someone for pleasure or profit. So I don't know if you guys have seen the series Dirty John on Netflix, but it's the perfect textbook example. Sadly, it is a true story. This woman was terribly abused by a sociopath. And if you've ever had one in your life, it's very much severe trauma. This is why I call it love trauma. And it really does shake you up quite a bit. But these people are impulsive. They do what they want without thinking about anybody else's or the consequences. It's all about them. I'll do what I want because I couldn't do that as a kid. Or I have some money. I'm going to go buy myself a new car, a sports car, and not even tell my wife because, hey, I deserve it. You know, things like that where they're impulsive and they just do for themselves and they don't think of anyone else. And it can be a very destructive path. So perfectionism is another one, a lot of blaming behavior, never taking responsibility. One a lot of women have is people pleasing. They can't say no. They overdo for others. That makes them angry, exhausted, and resentful. They use it to feel loved or raise their self-esteem because that was a pattern they were used to with a difficult parent. See, all of these things became coping mechanisms. Well, if I'm really nice to my mom, the alcoholic, maybe she won't yell at me. Or if I get all the siblings up and get them ready for school and pack the lunches and get them to the bus stop, she won't yell at any of us. You know, we'll get out of the house, you know, without a big war happening. So they overdo their perfectionism, people pleasing. Now, if you had abandonment issue, this leads to high anxiety, clinginess, codependent relationships. When your partner's gone or they don't give you the attention you feel you deserve, they're often seeking outside attention through social media or flirting with other people. So love addiction is part of this. If you were in a toxic relationship and you broke up with someone, you're going to crave them back. This is a pattern called love addiction. And consciously, you're like, I know he's so bad for me, but you just can't stop the impulse of wanting that person still in your life because they gave you attention. And this is from, you know, if it's a female, usually the male parent barely giving you any attention. So the research shows going back and forth, breaking up, getting back together is an average of 7 times in these type of toxic relationships. Another thing that's very common, and I'll use this example, we have a top politician, a male, that blurts out verbally things that are totally inappropriate, leaving people to say, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. That is called blurting. And yes, he is a ACOA, adult child of an alcoholic, and definitely has a lot of childhood trauma. And this is very evident in his blurting out and his narcissism, wanting people to like him. You know, well, if you do this, you know, I'll get you the supplies, you know, things like that. But once you understand this, it's so much easier as a single person to go out and date with what we call conscious awareness. They really understand all this psychology, and then they get all the skills to attract an emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious partner. So they know what to look for, that's good, and what's not good. And they don't stay in relationships. Most people fall in love due to chemistry, which is one of the worst ways you can fall in love. And that's not what we were taught.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the worst. Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, think about it. We were raised with like Sleeping Beauty. You see the handsome prince, you kiss them, you go off and you live happily ever after. Well, that's usually not true. The chemistry pulls you back to the normalized behaviors from your past.
Wow,
And
that's very interesting.
Yeah, the brain triggers, like it gets excited when it recognizes what it knows, but it doesn't decipher this is a good excitement or a bad excitement. So you really have to retrain your unconscious to know, with intelligence and the mindset for success, how to navigate the world. And my couples that come in, whether they're married or couples, they have these toxic circles of arguments. They fight, then they make up, then they fight, then they make up. And it's very, very toxic and horrible for kids to witness. But that's two people. It's like three entities I have to help. Partner A, partner B, and the third is the relationship. So I have to separate them and get to the core of each of their childhood traumas, figure out what's going on within each of them. Then how is it coming out in the relationship? How are they playing this? And then I develop a whole new different way of communicating for them with the understanding and being able to admit, whoa, I'm sorry, I yelled at you. I was being triggered. That's not your fault. Things like that they really learn a whole new communication style. And with practice, you no longer get emotionally triggered. That's the good thing.
Wow, that is good.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's the good news at the end of all this. It can be healed. Now, I'm a certified clinical trauma professional. So in my trauma work, they said, ideally it takes 6 months for me to work with someone. But I do have other programs that are 4 months. But it's a lot to learn. It's a lot of practice. And, I really have to keep an eye on my clients. If they slip, which is typical because the unconscious is so strong, I have to guide them back to that sense of empowerment,
Yes. I love that you used your profession, what you do, and then weaved it in with the coaching.
Yeah.
That makes it amazing, to be honest with you. It really does.
I went global in 2017. I was just really tired of the insurance model and them deciding not to pay their therapists. And after, doing tons of hours and them owing me $5,000, it was just like, you know what, that's my limit. I'm done. And I went global and self-pay and developed these programs because I was so excited about the research. I'm like, I have to get this out to the world. So the best way for me to do it is to go global. And I have my podcast, Lessons in Life and Love. So that comes out every Friday. And I talk a lot about these types of topics and what comes up and, about people being triggered and anxiety and all natural remedies to health and healing. Because none of my people are on psychotropic drugs. That's just a Band-Aid. You're not getting to the core issues. So it's really important we get to the core issues that, going back in time for a period of time and then bringing you to the present and moving you forward with a new mindset for success.
I absolutely love it. And I know that it's successful when you blend in that coaching model with that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It really is. How does it show up in work when people are the emotional triggers and their destructive behavior patterns?
Sure. This could be the really competitive employee, the one that's very difficult or sabotages someone else so they look better. It could be the tyrant boss who's a bully. It could be someone who's self-employed and gets so far, but they're afraid to invest money, like in further coaching. Like I have hired 11 coaches throughout my coaching career, but that's what gets you to the top of your game, right? It's a big learning curve. And now I'm actually mentoring people who want to be coaches. So, you have to invest in yourself and your business if you want your business to be successful. But there's guilt around that. That's a lot of times trauma number 9, where you grow up in lack and we don't have enough money or you don't feel worthy of investing this kind of money to grow your business, or you have that thought of, well, what if it doesn't work out? Then I'm just throwing my money away. So that whole lack mentality is all from childhood. So it shows up in various ways, like with the politician I talked about. I mean, he's publicly embarrassing himself because this is unhealed. And I remember looking at the TV once, they're like, we think he has a mental health issue. And I'm like, no, he's got unhealed childhood trauma. It's so evident. I can see it. It's black and white,
Do you think the person realizes that they have?
No, people usually don't know it. It's so new. This whole topic and research is so new. It's only been out a couple of years. I was doing the research, and like 3 years later, I saw Kaiser Permanente come out, and they're from out of San Diego. And they did research on childhood trauma's impact on health. And when it's not healed, people have early illness and disease and die earlier. And it's directly related to cancer and Alzheimer's and diabetes and obesity, irritable bowel syndrome. So they did all of that, which I loved because it really validated a lot of what the claims I was making. But they didn't go into love, life, or business. And I'm like, that's perfect because this is what I cover. Life shows up like if you're prone to addiction, you can't handle your problems, or you have ongoing anxiety, or these bouts of depression or moodiness, or you're always exhausted. So these are life issues that show up because your soul, your psyche is just not happy. You a lot of negative thinking, a lot of fear-based thinking. So that's how it shows up in life areas. Problem relationships with friends or your family members or your children. And definitely if you see your kids acting out, please get them coaching help. Kids aren't born bad. Okay. They are probably suffering from a home environment that they do not know how to navigate. So this is why kids act out, and they don't have the emotional capacity to deal with a toxic household. Kids are much better in a one-family household that's peaceful and loving and supportive than two people toxic and fighting all the time.
So if people have these symptoms, they would seek professional help and they would find someone like yourself.
You definitely want a CCTP, certified clinical trauma professional. That I don't really know anybody else that does this work, to be honest with you, because I'm a certified mindset coach.
Me either.
And the therapist as well. So, I have all these modalities that I help my clients with their healing. But yeah, you have to, I hear people say all the time, oh my God, I've been in 7 years of therapy, and in 1 hour with you, Riana, I've learned more than 7 years of therapy. This was never touched on. I said, that's because they didn't know about it. I didn't know about it as a therapist until I did my own research. We don't learn about it in school. It's horrendous. You definitely need to know this to help your clients.
I think it's something that we definitely need, to go through so that we can live a better, a happier, more fulfilled life. And
and these skills don't go away, Shantae. Once you learn them, you have them for the rest of your life. So you make the investment. I always say the earlier, the better. Come early. Don't come to me. My oldest client was 73, Bob. I love him. He's adorable. But he had his fourth wife divorce him. They all divorced him. And he's there, I'm going to die alone. Nobody loves me. I'm old now. Who's going to want me? He's crying. And I'm like, look, if you give me 6 months of your life, you can have the rest of your life, and it's going to be amazing. And it's so cute. He's been with the same woman now, I think 6 years. And he always sends me his trips from their cruises at white night of them dancing together. So he says, Riana, I am the happiest I've been in my entire life. And I just wish I did this sooner. I said, Bob, you can't look backwards. Just enjoy it now. And I'm so glad you did this for yourself. So I love getting people in their 20s, early 30s, women that want marriage and families and keep meeting toxic men. Come to me as soon as you can versus waiting, and can't figure out what to do.
How often would they see you throughout that 6-month period? Is it once a month?
I have various programs, but what we do is on my website, rianamilne.com. I have an amazing special for only $47 right now. You can meet with me for 1 hour. It's usually $500. And I do 5 assessments with you. So I get really deep into what's going on with you. So after that hour, we know exactly what's going on and why. And then when I can see the degree of what they're struggling with, I can offer like one of my 7 different programs that I think would help them the best, and they would understand why. So, some people don't need the 6 months. Some will do perfectly fine with 4. It just really depends on the situation. So that's why I like to do the assessment. Also on my website, there's a free book that goes into this topic even more. And in that ebook is the childhood trauma checklist. So if you weren't able to write these things down for yourself, make sure you get the free ebook. And there is free book chapter downloads of Live and Love under the book section, Beyond Your Dreams, and 4 free love tests. So if you're struggling with a partner, you're like, are they toxic? How toxic are they? Do I have a chance here? Is this fixable? That is the red flag checklist, and just go under quizzes and you can find the 4 tests. So I have lots of information and education everywhere. My YouTube channel, I think I have 190 videos there now on this topic.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive. I'm curious, what does it look like when it's a healthy relationship that's evolving?
Okay, well, that's section 4 of the love book. So there's a lot of information on that, but just some simple things in general. There's the philosophy I teach them is it's you and me against the world. So you really need to make your partner the priority. And most people make the mistake of making children the priority. They're running them around, they shortchange themselves, they don't keep dating. And then by the time the kids are off in high school or college, they divorce. Why? Because they didn't make their partner their priority. So if you make your partner the priority, the children and the family are happy too. So that's a big one. There's a balance, like a balanced triangle of me, you, and us. So you have to watch that your relationship's not codependent. You have your thing going on, whether that's work and friendships and working out time and maybe your hobby time or creative time, and he's got that too. And then you have that equal amount of time with your partner, having fun, goofing off, taking walks, taking a drive, romantic dates. You got to invest the time. Another one is for those dating, be what you want to attract. So we have to make sure with my singles that they're emotionally healthy before they go back out there to date. They have to be really healed of any of their childhood trauma. And then they have to learn all the warning signs of toxic people and what they're looking for in someone emotionally healthy. They need to know their 6 to 8 requirements that they need to really make sure that they're happy in their relationships. A lot of people settle just to have love, or they fall in love with someone's potential. Huge mistake. Fall in love with them exactly as they are. Don't try and change them. Don't believe in their words. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Find someone that's already doing what you want. You need to know your emotional needs, your functional needs, the art of communication when there is issues, and there will be issues because you're 2 different people, but you never end up yelling or screaming at your partner. It's a very peaceful way of existing and a really calm and loving way to have a relationship. And you both have a shared vision of your future. If you're a baby boomer and you want to retire in Florida, then you're not going to want to hook up with someone that wants to be in Colorado mountains in the snow all winter. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
Do your likes and interests align? And the last one I want to share, which is really important in a lot of the research, 2 faith-based people that have the same philosophy about faith and spirituality. I don't care what religion name you call it. It has to be a spiritual philosophy and a way of living, like living in high integrity, living in honor, living in truth. This is extremely important that 2 people have that. So there's some tips right there.
Wow. Thank you so much, Riana. That was great.
You're
So
welcome.
you have a podcast and it comes out every Friday, and the name of the podcast is called
Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne.
All right. And then we have your website at rianamilne.com. And you have so many books. You have a total of 7. You are a #1 best-selling author, which is amazing. And then you're offering the free gifts for everyone that goes to the website, where they can get the free love test, the free ebook on this topic, and then some other assessments there as well, like personal love and life and love transformation discovery session and assessment.
Yes.
Wow. Good stuff, you guys.
One other thing, Shantae, too. I have an app. It's called Lessons in Life and Love on the Go. So the cool thing about that app, it's free, but you can watch all the YouTube videos on it, and you can also listen to the podcast. So it's a really cool little tool if you're out walking or driving in your car and you don't want to listen to the radio. Just, put on the app.
Oh, and we can go to our app store to download that. Oh, all right. That's good stuff. Look at you.
And I teach all this stuff now to people.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
okay. So we say, wow, you have it going on. All your ducks in a row, your I's dotted, your T's crossed. I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, this is good stuff. I'm gonna have to check out your book, your podcast, and all of that stuff, and keep up with it, because it is really interesting. I love that it's all about helping people to heal.
Yeah, I just want to really encourage the listeners that, the time is now to create that life you really desire and to have the love you deserve. Don't wait. I mean, if this COVID situation has taught us anything, life is short. So what are your dreams? What are your desires? What is it you want to do? And this is what I create in my people. This is what we examine, and my clients go for it. I just had somebody today tell me she got an amazing job offer. Really happy about that. Another woman last week bought her dream home that she's been struggling with, and the ex-husband, the toxic guy, said, "There's no way we're getting a shore house." And she wouldn't have treated herself before coaching, but she went and she bought it, and she's so happy.
That's
so
amazing.
just things like that. It's life's too short to be unhappy. So go for it.
I second that. Go for it.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Riana, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed talking with you, and you left so much amazing information. Just amazing. You guys, I hope that you had a pen and a piece of paper. If not, go back and check out this show again, because she did leave us with 10 tips, you guys. 10. And I thought that was totally amazing. Be sure to check out Riana's books, check out her website. All of the information is located in the show notes for today's show on how you can follow Riana and get in contact with her. I love the fact that we talked about so many things, you guys, relationships as well. What does a healthy relationship look like? The warning signs of toxic people. We talked about trauma, like to the core, you guys. And we also talked about falling in love, you guys. When you fall in love with someone, it cannot be for their potential. It has to be for who they are. And so much more. So much more. You guys heard it all. It was good stuff. Again, thank you, Riana. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Share the show with someone you know. If you have not had an opportunity to follow the show and subscribe, please do so now and share it with a friend. Email me, authenticshante@gmail.com, with any information. If you would like to be a guest or know someone who would make a perfect guest, email me as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Shante with Authentic Talks.